Who is it who walked the streets of Galilee, healing the sick and setting the captives free? Do you know who it is? Who is it who for sinners shed his blood, and now for cleansing all can plunge beneath that flood? It's Jesus. But do you know who he is? He's the image of the invisible God, and he's the brightness of his glory, the first, the last, the future, the past. He is God. He's the image of the invisible God, and he's the brightness of his glory, the first, the last, the future, the past. He is God, the first, the last. He's my future and my past. He is God, God.
And good morning once again, my brothers and sisters. We're here for another Living Hope Today study. I want to welcome you and say thank you once again for attending. Today we find ourselves in the book of Numbers, chapter 31. And hey, guess what? This is a chapter where people will point to God and say, oh, that Old Testament God, he's bloodthirsty, he's vicious, he's cruel, he's so harsh. Why will they point to this chapter? Well, you'll see in a minute. It gets pretty graphic. But on the other hand, God is not without his reasons, and he sometimes is using the nation of Israel to execute judgment on these pagan nations that refuse him, and not only refuse him, but try to deter his people from following him. Let's just look at it together as we move forward. Verse 1, the Lord said to Moses. So what do we know? We know for sure that God is the one commanding and speaking, all right? He says what? Take vengeance on the Midianites. Okay, we'll look at where these guys are in a second. Do it for the Israelites. After that, you will be gathered to your people. Oh, hey, Moses, as your final act before you die, notice, God is the giver of life. He sustains life. When he says life is over, life is over. Okay, after you see your people through this attack against the Midianites, you're going to die. Okay, Moses, here we go. Now, here's a map, all right? You see the shaded part where it says Midian. You see up above where it says Moab. You see way up at the top where it says Jericho. This is where the Israelites are currently camped, up here in the Jericho region. But I want you to think about Midian with me for a minute. Midian is the son of Keturah. She's born Midian's born as a son of Abraham through Keturah, all right? Moses in Midian, he flees to Midian when he kills that Egyptian, and he stays there for 40 years. He marries in Midian, this area right here on the map. Jethro is his father-in-law. If you remember, he's a priest of Midian. You can read about it in Exodus 3. Remember just a few chapters ago in Numbers 22, Midian conspires with Moab to pay Balaam to curse the people of Israel. And you also remember, I hope, in Numbers 25, just a few chapters ago, Midian is the nation that seduced the men of Israel and brought shame and judgment at Peor on the nation of Israel. In fact, a plague broke out against the people because of the Midianites, specifically the Midianite women. So we remember this in Numbers 25. Treat the Midianites as enemies and kill them. This is God speaking, because they treated you as enemies when they deceived you in the affair of Peor and their sister Cosbi, the daughter of a Midianite leader, the woman who was killed when the plague came as a result of Peor. You remember the Israelites were worshiping false gods with the Midianites and sleeping with the Midianites, and one guy walks across right in front of Moses with one of these women. Her name is Cosbi, and Eleazar the priest kills them both. All right? Plague breaks out. People are dying by the thousands as God judges his own people for their disobedience. Now we see God judging a pagan nation for their insolence and their disobedience. So Moses said to the people, arm some of your men to go to war against the Midianites. That's what we're going to do. And to carry out the Lord's vengeance. This is him acting against them as an act of judgment. Send into battle 1,000 men from each of the tribes of Israel. Okay, so 12,000 men armed for battle, 1,000 from each tribe were supplied from the clans of Israel. Moses sent them into battle, 1,000 from each tribe, along with Phinehas, son of Eleazar the priest, who took with him articles from the sanctuary and the trumpets for signaling. That's how they used to communicate during battle. They fought against Midian, as the Lord commanded, as he commanded Moses, and they killed every man. All right, so judgment is total. Among the victims were Evi, Rechem, Zur, Hur, and Reba, the 5 kings of Midian. They also killed Balaam, son of Beor. This guy that had all this conflict a few chapters ago by getting paid to curse Israel dies at the hands of the Israelites here in Numbers 31. All right, they kill him with the sword. All right, God knows how we live and what we do. The Israelites captured the Midianite women and children and took all the Midianite herds, flocks, and goods as plunder. So now we're going to get into the aftermath of the battle. They burned all the towns where the Midianites had settled, as well as all their camps. In other words, total destruction. They took all the plunder and spoils, including the people and animals, and brought the captive spoils and plunder to Moses and Eleazar the priest and the Israelite assembly at their camp on the plains of Moab by the Jordan across from Jericho. So this tells us that the majority of the Israelites are camped well north on the east side of the Jordan across from Jericho. But they've gone south and they've attacked Midian and they've killed all the men. They've wiped out all the towns and the encampments. They have taken huge amounts of plunder. Moses, Eleazar the priest, and all the leaders of the community went out to meet them outside the camp. Notice outside the camp. Why is that important? Well, because these people are unclean according to the rules God has placed on them earlier regarding touching dead bodies and being exposed to blood, that sort of thing. But here's something. Moses was angry with the officers of the army, the commanders of thousands and commanders of hundreds who returned from the battle. Moses, why are you upset? Have you allowed all the women to live? He asked them. Why would you want the women dead, Moses? Well, they were the ones who followed Balaam's advice And they were the means of turning the Israelites away from the Lord and what happened at Peor, so that a plague struck the Lord's people. The women themselves are going to be held accountable for the sins they committed in previous chapters. Now, kill all the boys. Wow. God doesn't want any remnants of the Midianites. And kill every woman who has slept with a man. In other words, anybody that has done this is going to die, but save for yourselves every girl who has never slept with a man. A lot of people would look at this as some kind of weird perversion. You're going to keep all the virgins for yourself? Really? But maybe this is God's mercy. Instead of killing all the Midianites, he spares this group. All of you who have killed anyone or touched anyone who was killed must stay outside the camp of 7 days. On the third and seventh days you must purify yourselves and your captives. Purify every garment, as well as everything made of leather, goat, hair, or wood. Then Eleazar the priest said to the soldiers who had gone into battle, this is the requirement of the law that the Lord gave Moses. So now we're talking about getting clean to come back into the camp, but now we're talking about the plunder. Gold, silver, bronze, iron, tin, lead, and anything else that can withstand fire must be put through the fire, and then it will be clean, but it must also be purified with the water of cleansing, and whatever cannot withstand fire must be put through that water. And on the seventh day wash your clothes, and you will be clean. Then you may come into the camp. So we're going to come back home after the war. These are the requirements to enter the camp again. The Lord said to Moses in verse 25, here we are again, God speaks. You and Eleazar the priest and the family heads of the community are to count all the people and animals that were captured. Divide the spoils between the soldiers who took part in the battle and the rest of the community. This is how we're going to split up the plunder from the soldiers who fought in the battle, set apart as tribute for the Lord, 1 out of every 500, whether persons, cattle, donkeys, sheep, or goats. Take this tribute from their half share and give it to Eleazar the priest as the Lord's part. From the Israelites' half, select 1 out of every 50, whether persons, cattle, donkeys, sheep, goats, or other animals. Give them to the Levites who are responsible for the care of the Lord's tabernacle. So Moses and Eleazar the priest did as the Lord commanded Moses. If you're not that good at math and you're trying to figure out the numbers regarding how this got divided, well, don't worry, because here we go. The plunder remaining from the spoils that the soldiers took was 675,000 sheep, 72,000 cattle, 61,000 donkeys, and 32,000 women who had never slept with a man. The half share of those who fought in the battle was 337,500 sheep, of which the tribute for the Lord was 675, 36,000 cattle, of which the tribute for the Lord was 72, 30,500 donkeys, of which the tribute for the Lord was 61, 16,000 people, of which the tribute for the Lord was 32. Moses gave the tribute to Eleazar the priest as the Lord's part, as the Lord commanded Moses. Notice how the text keeps bringing us back to the fact that God is the one commanding these things. The half belonging to the Israelites, which Moses set apart from that, let me see if I can get this right, of the fighting men. Here comes some more numbers. The community's half was 337,500 sheep, 36,000 cattle, 30,500 donkeys, and 16,000 people. And from the Israelites' half, Moses selected 1 out of every 50 persons and animals as the Lord commanded him, and gave them to the Levites who were responsible for the care of the Lord's tabernacle. Then the officers who were over the units of the army, the commanders of thousands, the commanders of hundreds, went to Moses and said to him, look at this. Your servants have counted the soldiers under our command, and not one is missing. What does that tell you? It tells you that the Israelites experienced no death at all as they attacked and destroyed the people of Midian. All right. So we have brought as an offering to the Lord the gold articles each of us acquired, armlets, bracelets, signet rings, earrings, necklaces, to make atonement for ourselves before the Lord. Moses and Eleazar the priest accepted from them the gold, all the crafted articles, all the gold from the commanders of thousands and commanders of hundreds that Moses and Eleazar presented as a gift to the Lord weighed 16,750 shekels. Each soldier had taken plunder for himself. Moses and Eleazar the priest accepted the gold from the commanders of thousands and commanders of hundreds and brought it into the tent of meeting as a memorial for the Israelites before the Lord. Wow. So there's chapter 31 of the book of Numbers. A lot of death, a lot of destruction, a lot of judgment ordered by God. Why did God order it? Because of the sinful actions of the people. You know, we like to think of God as this great big teddy bear in the sky. He loves us unconditionally. We can do whatever we want because He's going to always take us back, and it doesn't really matter how we live as long as, He loves us, we're going to be fine. But if you read the Bible closely, illustrated particularly today in Numbers 31, God has judgment in His heart as well. He is not going to let evil reign, and He is not going to let evil exist forever. He is going to stop it. All you have to do is read the book of Revelation and understand the magnitude of the chaos and death that's coming because of the sinfulness of humanity. What we have to understand is, yes, God loves us, and He loves us by showing us a way, providing for us a way to be reconciled to Him. That's through Jesus Christ. That's because the Lord died for us, took our punishment upon Himself as He hung on the cross at Calvary, shed His blood on our behalf. That's God providing a way for you and I to deal with our guilt, because now our sin, through Christ, has been paid for. We are brought into His presence, covered in the righteousness of Christ. We are not brought into His presence because we're good people, because no one's good, no, not one. What we see in these pages is death is inevitable for anyone who disobeys God. Judgment is coming for every sin. If we are not covered in the righteousness of Christ, we are going to receive God's full wrath and spend eternity separated from God. This is the point. God illustrates it in Numbers 31. We might think it to be harsh, but we need to understand that salvation is God's plan for us if we'll come to Him on His terms. Let me know what you think about that in the comment section if you care to. God bless you, church. Serve Him well.
Who is it who for sinners shed His blood, and now for cleansing all can plunge beneath that flood? It's Jesus. But do you know who He is? He's the image of the invisible God, and He's the brightness of His glory, the first, the last, the future, the past. He is God.